says that his heart wasn't proud and he didn't let his heart go too high, that David didn't let himself go too high, and so to speak, he spoke about his own midah of holding himself within his own madrege, which means that he didn't use betachin in an inappropriate place. Even though a person needs to have trust in the Lord, but in a place where a person needs to guard himself, in that place one cannot simply rely on the Holy One, but one must use the midah, one must use the trait of fear. Be afraid. Don't just trust. Don't say everything's going to be good. God takes care of everything. Everything is in the hands of God. No. This is a place to be afraid. This is a place to be afraid. Okay? And I didn't lift up my eyes to look on high. I didn't do something I didn't do something which isn't pure before my eyes. That he was careful to check it out with his eyes. Right, they didn't fool me. My eyes didn't fool me. Well said. So now he continues with this. Because sometimes even with a man who's a tzaddik, Yimtzil upon will find sometimes that is even someone who's a tzaddik will find that his heart desires something, his heart yearns for something. His heart yearns for this because he is a tzaddik, and the fact that his heart yearns for this thing, it is because of the fact that there is a hidden good in this thing. But somehow when he looks at it and he inspects it, he thinks about it, it doesn't seem totally pure to him. He knows that his desire does ultimately come from a good place. He knows that his desire does ultimately come from a good place. And the fact, since he's a tzaddik, he can rely on the fact that if he desires this thing, it is ultimately because of the good which is hidden in this thing. So that desire is, so to speak, the shirish of the desire is betoy. The shirish of the desire is in good. However, when the tzaddik thinks about it, he thinks, well, there might be a certain admixture here, which is not the way it should be. There might be a certain admixture here which is not totally pure. It's not all for God here all the time, 100%. There might be a certain amount of selfish and or lustful desire involved here. So, don't do it. He says because the thing, it still needs time to ripen. In other words, the idea that this thing that's being presented to the tzaddik and that arouses his desires, it belongs to the tzaddik, so to speak. And the tzaddik is supposed to go to that thing and get that thing is essentially correct. However, when the tzaddik looks into it, his eyes, so to speak, the eyes of his soul see that it's not totally pure. It's not totally pure. That's because it's not the time yet. These two things, the tzaddik and this thing that he desires, are supposed to come together. They're supposed to be brought together, but not right now. He feels drawn to this thing because of something good. He feels drawn to this thing. His desire for this thing is rooted in holiness, but he's not supposed to act upon it now. He's not supposed to act on it now because the time is not ripe yet. He could see that there's a certain impurity. You could see that there's a certain impurity.
It sounds like Zimri still had that mixture.
Okay.
He would have waited.
Okay. So.
He still would have done it.
Okay. V'hine Zimri toan. Zimri argued, since he understood that there is kedusha in this soul, in the soul of Cosby, there is kedusha, and the soul of Cosby is connected to him. As it's explained in the writings of the Rizal. The chet was because he himself could see that there was a certain impurity there, but he went ahead anyway. Essentially, he was right that. In feeling that there is an essential connection between him and Cosby, and he and Cosby are one way or another destined to get together. But he wasn't supposed to go and do it right then because it was negative. Of looking at it, he could see that there was a certain impurity in his motivations, that it wasn't all worked out yet. It wasn't Zach v'yosher negative. Even he himself, he understood that it's not totally pure and just before his eyes. And that's what Pinchas said, what it said about Pinchas, according to the limit of the understanding which Hashem Yisbarach gave to the creations in the world. There was a depth to this Maisa in Zimri, since he was chosen to be a Nasi for Klal Yisrael, Pi Hashem, by a Kadosh Baruch Hu, Pi Moshe, Ben Ol Vashon, when he talking to a Noyev Chasher Lev Chasher. It's impossible that Zimri was just a regular Noyev, a simple fornicator Chasher Shalom. We can avoid Bekisri Arizal. So basically, he okay. Stop. We had the father, now we had the son. So the Beis Yankov is first of all moderating the whole thing. He's moderating the whole thing. In other words, he's not willing to say that Zimri was just right the way the Meshulach says it. The Meshulach basically finds no fault with Zimri. It's only that Pinchas thought that there was a fault in Zimri, but essentially there was no fault in Zimri. Zimri understood the Oim HaKadover, Pinchas didn't understand the Oim HaKadover. Zimri understood the Oim HaKadover, Pinchas didn't understand the Oim HaKadover. But the Beis Yankov says it in a more moderate fashion. There is a chet with Zimri. The chet with Zimri is it wasn't Zach v'Yosha Negedeno. It wasn't Zach v'Yosha Negedeno. Zimri was right in thinking. Zimri was right in thinking that this neshama was shaykh to him, and that he was supposed to ultimately get together with this neshama, but he himself knew that it wasn't totally pure, that it wasn't totally worked out. Zimri knew that. And therefore he wasn't supposed to do that. So first of all, he's restoring the chet to Zimri, which kind of fixes it a little bit, but in a certain way he wants to have it both ways. But then he goes back to Pinchas and he says, in other words, apparently he feels apparently the Beis Yankov feels that even the way Zimri did it, and there was a certain chet there, it didn't justify Kanoim Poigim Boy. Since he wasn't the Noyev Chaser Lev, since he wasn't just doing Erve, he was doing Avodah. He wasn't doing the Avodah exactly right, and there was a certain amount of chet in it, but it's not the kind of chet that justified Kanoim Poigim Boy. So basically, everybody gets slammed here a little bit. Like Pinchas didn't really understand that there was an oimik in the thing, and that it was Avodah Hashem, even if it wasn't totally pure, and therefore there's no way that Zimri really deserved to be killed. But Zimri did have a certain chet. He wasn't totally pure. So I just wanted to point that out. How did the
Beis Yankov and the Meir Shalach explain that the whole union of Crosby and Zimri was just the cherry on top? There was a lot of the same thing going on beforehand. Right?
Wait a second. The Meir Shalach refers to what do you mean? You mean the whole thing with Bnei Midyan?
No. Just in a few psukim before that Indian, there is the story about that they're carrying on with Moabi.
Yeah.
No. So if they are, so what? How does all this explain that which came before it?
Wait a second.
That Zimri, what about all the rest of them?
All the rest of them were sinners. Zimri was a Nasi Yisrael, and Zimri was a Nasi. Zimri was a Nasi Yisrael, and Zimri was an Oiskar but Tzaddik, and he was doing Al Pi Hashem, the Ratzon Hashem. The rest of them were sinners. Pinchas put Zimri in the same klal as the other ones, but he wasn't in the same klal. But first of all, it looks like even the son found the father's the extent to which the father goes here too much. I want to say. I mean, he backs off a little bit. He doesn't want Zimri to be totally clean. He's willing to put some blame on both sides. He doesn't want to say that Zimri was totally clean and Pinchas just killed a totally innocent man. Zimri was somewhat impure. Zimri was somewhat impure, but Pinchas didn't understand the oimik of it. So
could the Beis deserve to be killed for that?
No, he says beferish not like that. He makes that deal. That I mentioned. That because of what he had in his mind, which is the schar that Pinchas got, the divine approval that Pinchas got, was because he did what was right according to the limit of human understanding. But human understanding is limited. Pinchas didn't know the oimik hamayis.
But it's really not going back, because basically he agrees with the Meir Shalach. The only question in this case was Zimri partially chayte. He's just pulling back from maybe not making Pinchas such a fool. But
yeah, that's what I mean. He's not. You're right.
If you know that clearly that even
If it's already Zak v'Yosher, you go. If it's already Zak v'Yosher, you go. Now wait a second. Now wait. No, but I want to point out a couple of things. First of all, this way it's kind of easier to understand the dispute, because it's not a dispute about whether you can help yourself or not help yourself. The dispute is that Pinchas just saw it seichel and he didn't know what was going on. All these